welcome to the Dakota Housing Network. This is Joe Sheehan, my co-host.
Greg Larson.
And on the board.
Howdy ho.
There we go.
Jim Walsh. Star of stage, screen, and his apartment complex.
That's right.
Big show today.
Yes, sir.
Fed drops the bombshell. Going for 4 interest rate hikes in the year.
Whoa.
Nobody saw it coming. Spooked the markets a little bit. Rates got a little bit worse before the end of the day. Not a big runoff, but it certainly rattled the windows a little bit. And not only that, but we're coming. Greg, what do you got on tap for us in this show? You got national stuff, local stuff,
local statistics. We'll talk about what the rumors of fears of flooding are.
So first segment, we're going to go over the interest rate report, what's going on with interest rates, what does it mean that the Fed dropped this bombshell yesterday. Then we're going to go into the second segment, we're going to talk about some real estate statistics. And the third segment, we'll wrap up what do you need to expect for the year with the Fed possibly going for 4. Are they stretching too far, and what could that mean? And then finally, the last segment, you're going to want to hang on because we're going to talk about the rumors about the river, what it means for, why we hope for a cool summer out in western Montana. Just you get a little afraid, but maybe that's why
we wouldn't care if the cherry crop had a little issue.
Yeah, a little higher price on cherries. We'll pay it. We'll pay it out here in Bismarck. We'll voluntarily pay higher prices on cherries in Bismarck. And we'll go to before we get into the interest rate update. The music for today, Jim, is
35th anniversary this week of the release of Texas Flood, the groundbreaking blues album by Stevie Ray Vaughan that put him on the map and sparked a blues revival back in the 80s, which I was very happy about. Yeah. So we'll be featuring some classic cuts from that album.
And not to disrespect, but it just doesn't make the show sexy enough for this segment. It's Burl Ives.
Happy birthday, Burl Ives.
Little bitty tear, let me. We'll play that one too.
But you know what? I like Stevie Ray Vaughan a little better. All right, let's get to interest rates and what's going on with the big bombshell from the Fed on 4 potential rate hikes this year. So the mortgage market guide, bond prices, which struggled in response to yesterday's Fed statement, were able to rebound from the lows upon Fed Powell's conference, and that positive momentum is spilling a bit into this morning. So interest rates are getting a little bit better this morning, recovering from yesterday's little tish with the Fed's announcement. The rebound higher was touched off yesterday by Fed Chair Powell saying, "We know we are getting closer to that natural level." So interest rates are becoming more normal to the economy than they've been in the past. The neutral level is one where interest rates neither hurt or fuel economic growth. This suggests that the Fed is getting closer to not hiking rates further. At the very least, the markets had to be confused because in the Fed statement out just minutes before the conference, the Fed forecasted a 4th rate hike in 2018, as well as above target inflation to finish the year. So here's the question. Is the Fed serious about that, or is he playing a Jedi mind trick? No, there's no interest rate increase here.
That's right.
Because it is interesting that he would say that, but then come out and say that rates are getting at a more neutral level.
Right.
So what is he doing? Is he trying to lovingly confuse us? All right. In the not so good for bonds department, retail sales for May was a monster number. You guys are out there spending money. Coming in at 0.8%, doubled the expectations, excluding autos. Retail sales were 0.9%, well above the 0.5% anticipated. Why does it matter? Well, hey, folks, when you're spending money, why is that bad for interest rates? Because that means you're fueling stock prices, you're fueling economic growth, which fuels inflation, and inflation is the enemy of interest rates. So when the economy's doing good, interest rates just tend to go up. That's why during the Greenspan years, rates were on their way, moving up that 7, 8, 9% again. Now, when the economy wasn't good, but rates were at 18%, that was because inflation was so bad. So inflation leads to ticking up interest rates. Bad inflation leads to really high interest rates. So, and so spending money is bad for interest rates, but good. We want you spending money. It means you feel good.
That's right. And of course, interest rates are going to go up. Interest rates are a commodity, believe it or not. And when you're buying big ticket items, you're generally borrowing money, which means there's a demand for cash, which means they can charge more interest in a commercial or conventional loan because you're willing to pay it. Therefore, those rates creep up.
That's right. The higher the income goes, the more interest you can afford. Okay, so where are we at? After this week's risk events, bond prices have survived the assault. You can try. So basically what they're saying is you don't have to worry about interest rates skyrocketing even with the Fed's announcement. We'll talk a little bit more about that. As we know, sentiment can quickly turn sour, but it's probably not going to be over the Fed's announcement. That's probably going to quiet down for a little bit. But we will talk about what 4 potential rate hikes could mean in the future towards the end of the show here, right now as we move in close into the break. What's our first Stevie Ray Vaughan song up?
We're going to do the title track from the album, Texas Flood.
This, you know what, Stevie Ray Vaughan is, you know what, it's one of those things where one would imagine where his career would have gone.
Yep.
Would he have been the flash in the pan, or would he have been the long-term legend?
Yeah, I think he'd be the legend.
I mean, it is incredible what his music has done for the blues rock influence, and you can't hardly. It's almost like Ted Nugent. It's amazing to listen to Ted Nugent. Ted Nugent has written so many guitar riffs that don't matter in terms of the charts.
Yeah.
Like you listen to commercials, like you listen to Ted Nugent just play some of his guitar riffs, and you'll go, "I've heard that before."
Yeah.
But it's not a hit song.
But
it's there. It's just stuff he did on a guitar that will never be forgotten.
Yeah.
In the time that he did it. All right, as we go into the break here with Stevie Ray Vaughan, we're coming back with national average statistics on real estate, plus some local market stuff. Don't forget, the last segment, we're talking about rumors about the temperatures in Montana and what's really happening on the river.
Well, welcome back to the Dakota Housing Network for segment 2. We're going to talk about some real estate averages.
There we go. Greg, take us away. Let's talk about the national averages.
I got a whole bunch of stuff from national. Some of it you're going to find interesting.
Oh, now
we got Stevie Ray.
Got it.
This is my favorite one.
Yeah.
This is actually my favorite Stevie Ray song.
You know, he was an okay singer. I just wish he could have played the guitar a little bit.
All right. Sweet little thing. Talking about real estate.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Back to the business at hand.
All right. We've talked before about the size of the industry that real estate is. In 2017, 5.51 million homes were sold, existing homes. With an average price of $250,000 each, you can figure that out. That's in the trillions. That's a huge driver of this national economy. And this doesn't need to be exported. It doesn't need to be imported. It's here. It doesn't leave the country, so it's all profit. They figure every dollar earned by selling a house circulates 6 times through the United States economy.
Well, think about that. In an example of that is the GSEs, Fannie and Freddie,
right,
their total assets are over $5 trillion alone.
Right.
That doesn't include Ginnie Mae. That doesn't include any kind of private bond holdings that come through like housing finance agencies and everything, where, you know, of course, I can't remember our total size of the mortgage industry right now, but at one point it was equal to the GDP at $15 trillion when you looked at total private. So you're looking at trillions of dollars in real estate moved. What's the impact? Well, first of all, just in terms of debt service interest incomes and investment bond holdings, it fuels double-digit trillions.
So then let's talk about, since this is all basically in-house with the exception of some building materials, let's talk about what that does really with tariff trades. Most of the lumber comes to the United States. All of the sheetrock comes either from Japan or the United States. There's a 25%, last time I checked, tariff from the Japanese sheetrock that we import. We buy a lot of plywood from Japan. Here's the interesting thing. They go to Washington State. They buy the lumber for the plywood. They take it out past the 12-mile territorial zone on these big ships. They saw it up. They chip it up. They glue it. They pressure form it. on the ocean, dump the glue in our fishing grounds, then they come back to Los Angeles and sell it. And it's called Japanese manufactured. Never gets to Japan, and there's a 25% tariff on it. So it just points out how large the real estate industry is. The Association of Arello.
It's about 1.3 trillion in transactions, by the way.
That's just new homes.
Yep, that's just
existing homes.
That's just the sales per year.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm talking about the lending assets, I'm talking about loans that are being currently serviced that have been done. Right. That's the cumulative impact of all those being done every year. But it's just 1.3 trillion in a year. Remember, to give everybody a scope of that size, and sorry to interrupt, Greg, but I want people to understand how big this is. That first stimulus package was 1.5 trillion that Obama spent back in 2000, and it was the largest stimulus package in the history. Even with all the dams and everything else we'd built under FDR, $1.5 trillion. Real estate does that much stimulus
every year.
Every year.
Yep. So there are about 2 million active licensed real estate agents in the United States. They are not all realtors. They are not all members of the National Association of Realtors. There are 86,000 real estate brokerage firms in the United States. There are 5.6 million commercial buildings in the United States that comprise 87.4 billion square feet of rental income. In 2017,
I wonder how much of that is on Manhattan.
I don't know.
Wouldn't that be an interesting ratio?
Yeah, I can tell you just as we take a quick aside. Last time I was in the city of New York, we went. We were right by for some meetings. We were right by New York University. It's a 70,000 student university, 2 buildings.
Yeah. I love it. There literally buildings in New York, on Manhattan, that hold more people than there are in Bismarck proper.
Yeah.
In just one building. The whole block has more people on it than the state of North Dakota.
I don't know how many of those students are online or all of that. 2 buildings, teachers, staff, all that.
It's
70,000
incredible.
students.
The density. The density of the population is incredible.
Okay, so there are 1.3 million realtors, members of the National Association of Realtors. Here's an interesting thing. Of those, 65% of the realtors are sales agents. 22% are brokers that are non-active, in other words, managing brokers, and there's 15% who hold broker associate licenses. The demographic, here's the typical realtor. We talk about the women trying to break the glass ceiling and equal pay for equal work and all of that. Well, as realtors, we can say, for us, that's a myth. The average realtor is 53 years old, is white, is a female, who is a college graduate and is a homeowner. 63% of all realtors are female, and the median age of all realtors is 53. The average experience in real estate for realtors is 10 years, and the median tenure at the present firm is 4 years. Realtors worked more than 40 hours a week in 2017. The median gross income in 2017 was $42,500. So the myth of there are realtors that make a whole lot more than that, and there are realtors who make less, of course, but that's the median income.
Well, obviously, I watch $1 Million Agent every day.
Yeah, and that's true.
Clearly.
31% of the realtors have bachelor's degree, 13% have graduate degrees, 12% have associate degrees, 7% are high school graduates, and 6% are not.
And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but just because you're the kind of guy who would know.
Yeah.
Our agents in Bismarck, for sure, and I think statewide, on average, even have a higher level of professional designations like the I'm sorry,
GRI,
the GRI
CRS,
and
CRS, yeah.
There's several professional designations for realtors beyond that, and I think we're higher than the national average in terms of those professional designations and extra training and certifications that realtors get.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about that? Or?
Well, I don't have those numbers, but I believe that's true. We have we push education, but
what are those designations?
Well, there's a ton of them.
So when people see them, they know what they are.
GRI is Graduate Realtor Institute. That's you have taken real estate classes that take you beyond. It would be like an advanced degree, okay? Not kind of like a master's, but not really in that order. Then there's SRES. That's a specialist in senior real estate, in retirement folks that are getting ready to retire. A lot of that training, I have both those designations. A lot of that training is how to best use a reverse mortgage when they are appropriate.
I love reverse mortgages.
How to help. I do too. After I thought they were stupid till I studied them.
Everybody does. Because everybody thinks that they're negative AM mortgages.
Yeah.
They think they're the old like the old alternative credit stuff, but it's not. It's an FHA product.
The only person that wouldn't like a reverse mortgage if it's applied is the nephew that hopes to inherit.
Right. Well, actually, and it's so funny about that. We should do a reverse mortgage show.
We should.
There's two things that this brought up to me. It'd be interesting to see if Nancy or Jill would come in and talk about these designations and how do you shop for a realtor if you don't know one? Because they'd have an objective perspective of like how they present realtors to the market through the local associations, and then the other one would be we should do a reverse mortgage show and talk about the difference, and we should see if we could get Tom Selleck on to talk about it.
I'm in. So there's a bunch of designations. There's ABR, which is a buyer's agent. In large markets, there are people who specialize and only work with buyers, or specialize and only work with sellers, and there's designations for that. CRS, and I can't even remember what it stands for, is one of the largest ones, and that's emphasizes advanced education. I take CRS classes. They are very valuable. They're offered every year in North Dakota. I've taken enough to get my CRS designation. I haven't. It's like get around to it.
And I see these designations on all kinds of realtor profiles all over town, which I don't think is consistent nationally speaking. I just think it just goes to show that in our community, our realtors really are dedicated to trying to do the best to offer themselves as the best experts they can.
Right. CRS is one that it kind of puts you in a league. They cross-refer with each other, and
it doesn't mean that somebody doesn't have these designations isn't a good realtor.
No.
Clearly, we have several top producing agents that don't have any of them at all.
Yeah,
that's right. But I just think the fact that as a community, you see more of it than you do in other places. It just goes to say that the community has a high standard for knowledge and expertise.
And it's really clear. It's really clear that we have more associate brokers here than across the nation. There's a lot of associate brokers. So 25% of agents spend between $500 and $2,000 in technology in the last month. Almost everyone is on a smartphone. 91% of realtors use some form of social media. Here's the interesting.
Here's why that's interesting. It's because the average age of realtors is 53. So this is a above average professional group that is really engaged in technology.
Yeah, and that's only getting better. First time home buyers, repeat buyers. 30% of everybody who bought a home in 2017 was a first-time home buyer. Average age 34. The median age of repeat buyers is 54. The median household income of first-time buyers is $75,000. Median household income of repeat buyers is $97,000, which just stands to reason as you talk about building up. Typical home purchase was 18,700 square feet, was built in 1991, had 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Of those who finance their homes, they typically finance 90% of the home price. They bought their home through, and 87% bought their home through a real estate agent or broker, and that has increased from 69% in 2001. Buyers would use their agent again, 89%. where buyers found the home they purchased. And this is interesting. It is now, these numbers are changing a lot. 51% is internet. They shop internet first. And yet they still use an agent more than ever.
Wow.
And real estate agents is 30%. Yard signs, which used to be 30%, is 7%. Friends or relatives, which used to be like the second highest, is now just 6%. Home builder or their agent, 5%. Directly from the sellers because they knew them, 2%. And then all print and media advertising is less than 1%. That doesn't surprise me because the internet is what's taken over the advertising. And so, there's so many search engines. There's over 700 of them. The big ones are Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia.
Yeah. And with that, we got to go to our break.
We're going to go play.
Yeah. We are coming back with more local stats, and then we're talking river rumors.
All right.
After this.
Right Now 69.
On Twitter, Facebook, online, and YouTube. SuperTalk1270.com.
And welcome back to the Dakota Housing Network. And we are going to talk about local stats now. We just came out of national stats. Stevie Ray Vaughan taking us into what's happening in Bismarck-Mandan, Burley, Morton. Greg, take it away.
All right. Well, again, people ask me every day, how's the market? Is it ever going to recover? I mean, it's a tough market, right? I've changed my answer. I've always said, no, it's a good market. It's a strong market. It's a normal market. And people look at me like, oh, you liar.
Yeah. You're just
I
selling.
see all these houses for
This
sale.
is just a realtor BS.
And so
right?
I say, the market is always either good for buyers or good for sellers. And if you're a buyer, it's an amazing market right now. So
it's an amazing market for buyers.
If you are a buyer, my best advice is don't be a buyer, be a botter.
Yeah, be a botter.
You're not
don't be a shopper, be a buyer.
Yeah, you are not going to get a better deal. And here's evidence of it. We're talking, this is May to May 17 and May 19, end of May. The number of single-family units sold is down 4%. Now, the numbers of units on the market is up 8%. You have got a smorgasbord of things to look at, folks.
But 4% down from what?
Well,
4% down from
135 homes.
Yeah, but 4% down from what? Some of the best market ever?
Right. Yeah.
That's like saying, well, the Patriots are down 4% on their scoring. Of course, they scored 58 points last week.
Right.
But they only scored only scored 50 this week.
Here's the proof of that. You're waiting for the market to bottom. Stop waiting. Because the average list price from May to May is up 8%. And the average sales price from May to May is up 7%. And so, folks, you're paying more. If your income has not gone up 8%, you have less buying power than you did last year.
Well, and interest rates are higher too.
Interest rates are higher.
So that's also double whammying you.
Right. So this is not a time to wait for the bottom of the market. It's not happening.
Greg, explain why a price reduction. Why? See, what I think here's what happened. And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but what happened is the sellers put some listings out there, and we wound up with more listings coming on than we had buyers at a certain time of the year. Just the timing was off.
Yeah.
The timing of the buyers and the sellers was off. And so what we saw was sellers listing houses at prices expected from where we left off with the last selling rally.
Everyone thinks that they're still worth what they were.
They should go up from what they just last saw.
Right.
Well, I just last saw a house sell for this, so I should be able to list it for more than they sold it for.
My friend Jim sold his house
for $300
2 years ago for $25,000 more than what you're telling my house is worth, and I've got a nicer house.
Right. So then the expectation was, as we normalized, well, sellers had to bring their sellers had to bring some of their price expectations back to normal.
Yep.
The result was I think, people casually observing that, thinking, the market's bad. Look at all these price reductions.
Yeah.
But the price reductions weren't reflective of a bad market. They were just the reflection of a market normalizing.
Correct. And people are getting their price. The percentage of income or what they sold their house for compared to what it was listed at when it sold, when they got to a marketable listing price. Because remember, folks, your house is only worth what someone's willing to pay for it. But you're getting 98% of their asking price when it was a reasonable asking price. And we just did a market survey, and even going from the original list price to the selling price, the average is about 94%. So they're still getting a big chunk. Homes are holding their value. So that's single families. They're up 8% in list, 7% in sales price. That's just a month snapshot. So we're going to talk just a little bit about year to year so far. This is year to date. At this time in 2017, we're just going to talk single family. Condos are
on fire.
A different deal, but they're kind of on fire. In 2017, year to date to the end of May in 2017, 473 homes sold. This year, 484 homes sold, so we're up 2%. We're up 6% in sales price, so homes are appreciating. 6% of the
6%?
Yep, year to date. And we're getting 98% to 97% of the list price, so it's a healthy market, folks. We just have a lot of inventory. Now, we talk absorption rate. That's inventory, and we take the number of units sold in a price range and in an area. We take the number of units sold compared to the number of units listed, and we have an average inventory of about 3.5 months. In certain price ranges, it's out 24 months.
Right, whereas we were used to that being less than 2 months.
45 days or less.
Yep, for a while.
Yeah.
For a while.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a more normal.
And then the other thing too is a lot of these price reductions and stuff are on houses over 400,000.
Yes, they are.
And so then the consequence, what we seem to have, and this is not, I don't have like hard data. This is just my experience just working in the market. Yeah. What we seem to have is we have a lot of snowbird population, people hitting retirement age around here. Mm-hmm. That there seems to be like a higher than average of those folks after this last winter going, why do we live here all the time? And some of these higher price listings are the result of them trying to transition housing either to more maintenance type housing here, right, houses down south, where they're making arrangements to be down south part of the year and have less maintenance type, lower maintenance type housing up here. And of course, houses over that affordable housing range did experience some price reductions, didn't sell as fast, had to be pulled off the market and then represented to the market with a more realistic price and stuff. So
the actual truth to that is one where you can blame the Bakken. In the 2006 through 2008, the Bakken was tearing up. There were a lot of professionals, high income folks coming into Bismarck, setting up offices. Those offices are still here, but they don't have as large
administrative management executive
working here now. All these guys have to sell their houses. Well, they came here. They paid $600,000-$700,000 for a house. They way overpaid. They weren't worried about it because the Bakken was going to go forever.
Well, a lot of these companies have relocation programs that guarantee people the house value.
So they needed a house. They bought a house, and now they're trying to sell it. And we don't have the move-up market for that. We just don't have it. We just don't have the buyers.
But here's a great opportunity if somebody out there is listening.
Absolutely.
If you ever thought about, wouldn't it be great to live in a house like that? Like there's one down the street from me, and we'll do a free plug here, listed by Amy Hullett, and on Overlook Drive.
Yep.
And if I was in a different stage in life, It's like 5,000 square feet. It's got like 6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms. It's an older home. It's like in one of those 1970 contemporary architecture.
Right.
But inside, the thing is laid out cool. And I would never personally imagine living in a house like that. And if I was shopping now versus when I bought my house 3 years ago, that house is on the market for only like 400 and like mid 400 range, like 450 or something like that. I would totally be working on that house for the space, and I would overlook, and I'd be on overlooking the valley there. Are you kidding me?
If you are a buyer listening to this in the market to move up into that price range, it is never going to be better.
You could wind up in that custom built feel.
Yep.
The rich guy feel, and really could pay a blue collar price on some of these homes right now. Because you can never build the home for what they're selling some of these existing original custom built homes for.
And if you want to live by a golf course, there are some tremendous buys, both out at Apple Creek, up at Hawk Tree. Just some amazing buys. They're all over town, but I mean,
and you can sell your affordable house if your house is in that affordable house range, under $350.
Yeah,
you're going to get your premium for it. 6% appreciation, maybe even a little bit more. You might get a premium. So your equity position in your house right now might be as good as it's ever been.
Yeah.
To a first-time home buyer or just a first-time move-up buyer, and then you walk into a discounted custom home feel. Yep. I don't know. There's some opportunities out there for buyers. Well, you're right. It's a great market for.
It's a fantastic buyer's market.
Absolutely.
And these are just hard statistics. These aren't blue sky numbers, and I don't see them changing much. At this time, for a whole year average, we're also up in price, up in sales. Not quite as much because there was such a dump in December, November last year. But folks, man, if you're a buyer and if you're looking for an upscale home, you think you might want to do an upscale home, this is the time to call your lender and your realtor and get that put together.
Wait, I'm a lender.
And I'm a realtor. And it will never be better. Yeah.
All right. Hey, folks, we got to go to the break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about river rumors and why we should voluntarily pay higher prices for cherries if we have to in Bismarck, North Dakota, after the break.
Right now, 73.
Weekends with Twilight Zone Radio on SuperTalk 1270.
Magic Fingers.
Oh, yeah. Incredible talent.
Lenny, song for his wife.
Really?
Yes.
I got to download that one. I don't have that one.
Yeah.
I gotta iTunes that baby.
Kind of inspired by Little Wing, the old Hendrix thing.
Yeah. So I'm assuming we're back.
We are back, very much so.
I see this. Don't
say anything too dirty.
I see this.
No.
I see this song coming out with some candlelight and some smooth moves. Feeling inspired.
Yesterday was my 48th wedding anniversary. I can't even remember my smooth moves.
I've met your wife. She looks pretty happy. I'm guessing that those smooth moves aren't too far away.
We get along really well. We're great friends and all of that. I just can't imagine living without her.
Well, and it shows when you're together. You guys look amazing together. All right, well, congratulations to Greg. But as we move on here, speaking of happy households, you have a household on the river. What are the river rumors, Greg? I mean,
there's a ton of them floating around.
Let's go through the rumors, and then shall we debunkify? Should that be the way we go?
Well, yeah, let's truthify. Rumors are that there were warnings sent out to marina owners and stuff that their docks might flood away. I've not talked to a marina owner who says they got that, but it could have gone out. They're concerned that the river levels are going to come up and flood us much like 2011, this extended long high water, and that the releases are still going up. I just heard rumors yesterday that the releases are going to go up to 75,000 cubic feet per second. Now, the Corps isn't saying anything like that. rumors that Fox Island and Hogue Island are going to get battered again. I don't, all of that. Plus, there's flooding coming down the Yellowstone, and it's uncontrollable. Well,
the Yellowstone is uncontrollable.
The Yellowstone is uncontrollable, and
it's uncontrollable.
Here's where we're at today.
When the Yellowstone has low water, by the way, it's uncontrollable.
Yeah, it's one of the last untamed rivers
it is.
in the Great Western Watershed. So, here's the truth: we have the third highest snowpack ever recorded in the mountains. The 2011 event was the fifth highest snowpack. So there's more snow out there. But in 2011, that snowpack melt was on us early May. It melted that fast. It's not melting that fast. We're having a nice slow melt. It's cool in the mountains. What the Corps of Engineers talks about is they talk about the Fort Peck Dam and the controls there, and Lake Sakakawea and the controls there, and Lake Oahe and the controls there.
The first, second, and third line of defense.
Right. And then, there's the two other dams downstream, but they don't have the containment pools that these top three do. They just don't have – they're a small enough body of water behind the dam that they don't really have much effect on flooding.
Yeah, they're more for quick release for navigation, aren't they?
Exactly. They are. So here's where we're at. Fort Peck Dam is below standard, has 100% pool. Lake Sakakawea is that acceptable pool for spring runoff. So it fits that. If you talk to someone at Garrison on Sakakawea, that water is high. It's high up there, and they're concerned about it. But it's in that flood pool, So
it's in its range.
It's in its range.
And at the end,
Oahe is high. Now, what the Corps of Engineers does is they fill one and then dump it. And as they're dumping that, they hold it on the others, and then they dump that. Well, right now they have held on the Oahe. They're going to let that baby run loose now because
navigation season starts, too.
More than that, it's air conditioning season.
Oh, yeah.
And we've got these hydroelectric turbines in all these dams.
Mm-hmm.
And
time to put some power
WAPA, Western Area Power Administration, controls that. They want that steady flow of electricity through these dams. So they do one at a time. Mm-hmm. It's Oahe's turn, then it'll be Garrison's turn, then it'll be Fort Peck's turn, and so some of that flow controls that. That's why it's high, getting higher at Garrison. As soon as they shut Oahe off, Garrison is going to run, and that's why we're going to have high water here for the whole year because we're affected by both dams.
We're in the middle,
right? So what they don't talk about is the Yellowstone. God bless the Yellowstone River. It's an absolutely gorgeous river.
Lived on it.
Yep.
Born and raised in Sidney, Montana.
And that comprises just over 40% of the entire water that comes down through the Missouri in spring runoff. That snowpack. If we had 5 100-degree days up in the lower Bitterroot Mountains, we'd have some high water. We'd have some things to deal with, but I don't know that at this point it's a concern, but we'd have it.
And you don't typically have 100-degree days out there. You just don't.
We
get 85, 90.
Yeah, we would have that, but the runoff is coming in a good manner. We haven't had the huge rains that compounded everything in eastern Montana, so there's still a good amount of ground absorption for rain. It's not like it's saturated like it was in 2011, so that ground can hold a lot more water. Actually, it needs more water in eastern Montana. But we still have to watch the Yellowstone. And the thing that they don't that the Corps doesn't do is they don't talk about the Yellowstone until we're flooding. Then it's the Yellowstone's fault. And it's because they can't control it. They can't tell you what's going to happen with it. They can predict it, but they can't control it.
Have you heard, has Montana come back on that case against the appeal on the irrigation system in the Yellowstone River Valley out in northeastern Montana?
I haven't heard that they've settled that.
I mean, interesting because that's a major diversion of water off of the Yellowstone.
Yeah.
And they're talking about to protect the fish species out there. Yeah. A judge actually ruled that they had to dismantle one of the most advanced, elaborate irrigation systems in the world.
Yeah.
Which is the Yellowstone River Valley.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that's, but there again, talk about something that pulls water out of the system.
Yep.
And they were talking about getting rid of it. And there's an appeal coming back on that, and I don't know where it's at.
What we're talking about is we like a nice, cool spring coming through the Yellowstone River Valley. Well, that's the Bitterroot Valley. It's the Bitterroot Mountains, and some of the best Bing and Rainier cherries in the world come out of that valley. And
That's
it's
right.
orchard, horizon to horizon. And so if it's real warm real quick, they blossom up and they have a bumper crop. So we're kind of thinking it might be nice if they don't have a bumper crop.
It'd be nice to spend a little more money on cherries this year in Bismarck.
But they start harvesting in another, 4 weeks or so.
Do they?
Yeah, late July, mid-July. But, so that's where we're at. Now let me just give you some numbers. Right now at the Memorial Bridge gauge, which is actually out in front of a water treatment plant, but the gauge, it's at 10.8 feet. We freeze in normally at 13 feet. We start worrying about real serious lowland flooding at 14.5 feet. At 16 feet, we have problems. However, southern Bismarck is now, since 2011, they've taken measures to protect themselves. And it's almost completed. There's just one piece of that puzzle to be finished, and that's the Fox Island Protection Zone. That will protect the South Bismarck Water Treatment Plant, South Bismarck, Kirkwood Shopping Center, all the way out to the airport, kind of will protect that whole area. That's at 20 feet. That's above the 2011 flood stage of 19.2. So we don't really worry about serious flooding until that's at 16 feet. And that's about 70,000 cubic feet per second coming out of the dam. They just went up to 44,000 cubic feet with the potential of going maybe to 50 before we start catching up on the melt coming out of the mountains. And we're already seeing the flows into upstream Garrison coming down slightly. And so, folks, there's always a concern for flooding until the snow is out of the mountains. It's always something to watch. Right now, we're sitting pretty good, relative certainty that there's not going to be a devastating flood of any kind. There may be low-lying floods. If they have to do a quick release, there may be some docks, that might get ripped out or be in trouble. There's going to be some erosion, lose some trees, and that. So there's always debris damage and silting. But at this point, I can tell you that all the statistics say we should be guardedly optimistic that although we're going to have a high river and a lot of stuff, debris coming down, we are not in danger at this time of any kind of serious flooding. There you are.
I love to personalize it. We got 1 minute. So you live south, kind of right on the river.
Yep.
So you're in one of the lower areas.
Yes.
You're in one of the lower areas. Yep. Personally, your nervous factor on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being terrified, where are you at?
2.
Yeah. For your house.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is one of the first places in danger when things go wrong.
The ground around me, not my house. We built high, but
yep.
Yeah.
But I mean that area.
The lowlands around me.
You're in the lowlands.
Yes, sir.
So
here we go.
All right.
Rural lives.
Yeah. And we're gonna just deviate from Mr. Vaughn real quick to wish Mr. Ives a happy birthday. Thank you for tuning in to the Dakota Housing Network. And who's on next week? Who's on first?
I'm not. I
remember.
That's the realtor luncheon.
We'll figure it out.
Oh, that's Brian. Oh, man, if you want to learn about Bismarck, Brian's back. Talk to you next week, folks.
But a little bit of tear let me down. Spoiled my act as a clown. I had it made up not to make a frown. But a little bit of tear let me down. Said I'd laugh when you left.
SuperTalk 1270 KLXX Mandan, Bismarck.